Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I just wanted to talk about something that I didn't think I would ever talk about on my channel, and that is Dark Souls 2. You guys may have seen me fanboy over Dark Souls 1 and 3 here and on Twitch, but Dark Souls 2 is something I've been rather quiet about. That's because it's the Souls game where I've had by far the most mixed relationship. When I first tried the game nearly over a year ago, I wasn't very open-minded. I didn't like how the game felt compared to the first one, movement seemed off, combat was slow and clunky, the stamina regen. Generally, I just didn't like it at all. And if memory serves, I didn't bother going to the first boss. Yeah, I know. A good few months back though, I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I didn't give this game a fair chance. So I dove back in, and early on I wasn't enjoying myself very much, but I pressed on. I should probably mention this now, but I didn't know that iframes were tied to adaptability until at least mid-game, which led to me dying to bitch bosses like the Dragon Rider a few times. I jumped on the shitbox bandwagon and carried on with my salt in tow. One day I was in Discord and ranting about the game to a few of my friends, until one of them said, hey, what's your adaptability at? I said, I don't know, like 5 or something, why? To which she burst into laughter and said I need to be at least 20 to 25 if I want to survive. Ideally, try to get it up to 30. I almost put my head through my fucking monitor upon hearing this, but I took a breath and pressed on. It's my fault for not knowing about this, so every level I got went straight into adaptability for the next little while. I eventually beat the main game without doing any of the DLCs, and my verdict on the game was that it was okay. Had some cool new ideas, interesting lore points, cool new weapons, depth to build, and so on. But the main thing that bogged down for me was half the bosses being ganks, reskins, rodent mobs, or all the above. Iframes being tied to adaptability, and the overall gankiness of so many of the areas. Shrine of Amana, kindly go fuck yourself. Like I said, this all happened a fair few months ago, but earlier this week I decided to start a fresh playthrough now that I knew about the iframes and all the other stuff that annoyed me. I was a bit more prepared and I actually started to enjoy myself. I started to watch Dark Souls 2 lore videos by VatiVidya and Silvermont. Both are channels that I watched a lot in the past and really enjoyed for a good while, but I've just ignored Dark Souls 2 lore before this, and to be honest, I rather enjoyed the lore at this point. Now, I'm sure part of it's chalked up to the fact that Vati and Silvermont have some of the best voices ever, but I digress. I plowed through the game, collected my Lord Souls, spoke to Aldia a few times, downed the Ancient Dragon, faced Vendrick, beat the endgame boss Quadrio, and before beginning Journey 2 and truly finalizing my opinion on the game, I decided, well shit, I gotta do the DLCs now, don't I? How can I not, especially since I have Scholar of the Versin edition where they're all built in. Prior to this, I had done part of the Iron Crown DLC, having only beaten Few Knight, because to be honest, I did not feel like doing Sir Alan and Blue Kool-Aid's boss runs over and over again. This time I did the whole enchilada and I loved every bit of it aside from Blueberry Muffin. Thank God it only took me 3 tries to beat that fucker. I hated the gankiness of some of the areas, but that's such a common issue for me, so I just put it aside and enjoyed the aesthetics and more importantly, the bosses. After ditching Alan after only trying him a few times in my first playthrough, I was dreading facing him again. He's lightning fast as far as Dark Souls 2 goes, and his boss run is full to the brim with knights. But I persevered, and funnily enough, I one-shot him. Of course, I forgot to click record before I went in, but I really wanted footage for this video, so I burnt the ascetic at the bonfire and went in again. Holy shit, do the knights hit hard in New Game Plus. I had to face them a fair few times as well because Alon would nearly one-shot me after the ascetic was burned. A few tries later, I beat him and I was exhilarated. His combat style, quick speed, music, lore, and beautiful boss room, his fucking honor, all of it. With all that, he's easily in the running for the best boss in the game for me now, especially in the top 3, alongside Fume Knight and the Ivory King. Speaking of the Ivory King, that was the next DLC that I dove into, and holy shit, when I first saw Ilium Lois, or however the hell you pronounce it, I was enamored. I don't know what it is about snowy areas in games, but I absolutely adored it. Aside from getting ganked by spammy mobs, PvP invaders, and rabid baby Sonics, it's easily my favorite of the 3 DLCs. Ava was a good boss, not too easy, not very hard, just right in my opinion. Her shit pussy reskin gankers on the other hand, fuck those guys. I know that the Black Cats and Reindeer Fuckland as a whole are entirely optional, but I was determined to do the entirety of the DLC. It took me several hours before I finally beat the Big Cat duo, which funnily enough only took me a few attempts. However, it was the adventures of Horsefuck Valley that killed me most often, but hey, that's no big surprise seeing as how frustrating and universally hated that place is. Alright, now back on topic. This video is supposed to be discussing my positive change of heart towards Dark Souls 2, not just a bandwagon rant. Before getting bent over by Satan's Bambis, I faced off against the real man of the hour, the Ivory King. Like Sir Alan, he has easily won my vote for one of the best fights in the game. The tragic lore, the fucking atmosphere. Seriously, I cannot describe the pleasure tingles this place gave me. We went from traversing a gorgeous snow-filled dreamscape to the heart of chaos itself, floating amongst an endless sea of lava. How much more badass can you get? With the lowest knights at your back, you dive in, take down the black variants, which seems like a nod to Gwyn's silver knights later tried by the Chaos of Izalith, and in the most breathtaking way, the Ivory King emerges as though he were Sauron emerging from World of Warcraft's Dark Portal, and the fight with the king is on. His moveset wasn't too complex, and he had a moderate health pool, but the music was stellar, and the spectacle of the whole thing was just something else, the likes of which I've rarely experienced in the Souls series, and will be a loving experience to keep with me for a long time to come. To wrap up the DLC discussion, I'm only going to briefly touch on the Crown of the Sunken King DLC, as I unfortunately saved the least enjoyable for last, and was kinda glad when it was over if I'm honest. It felt gankier than ever, the whole poison vibe, while thematically accurate, was really annoying. Getting lost in the city for hours before eventually hitting the right switches, finding all the hidden walls and elevators was cool from an exploration and environmental standpoint, but was nothing but frustrating for me. Which is fair, because I'm someone with a horrible sense of direction who likes him a good boss fight, and that's that. Speaking of which, the boss in this DLC that I enjoyed the most was ironically the worst designed of the three. You guessed it, the Afflicted Gang Squad. This boss seems like the epitome of a filler boss, but you know what? Running around while juggling 3 different NPCs with different tricks up their sleeves was actually a lot of fun. So go ahead, discredit my opinion from here on out, I won't blame you. The fight against Alana wasn't too bad, I'd say it's a gank boss done decently well. Juggling her in Velstadt was challenging but not too difficult. The queen herself posed a slower but no less absent threat, and it just worked. Wasn't overly compelling, but it definitely wasn't terrible. Then there was Sin. And you know what? I'm not going to let my personal beef get in the way of the fact that this is a decent boss. I personally don't like fighting large beast bosses. 3 guesses how well I did in Bloodborne. The poison, the constant flying away, wide arcs of attack, all of which make perfect sense for the theme of the boss again. He's a poisonous dragon, and it's a fight that I respect, but didn't personally enjoy. Now to wrap up this video. After going in with a different mentality and a more open mind, I wound up enjoying the shit out of Dark Souls 2. I loved a lot of the boss weapons, the DLC bosses overall were great, the shit copy pussies and Dasher and Dancer had a baby and fuck you was his name O'Valley aside, the way magic and magic weapons were treated, Blue Flame Sword for the win, and I barely scratched the surface of magic. I plan on playing around with the magics in the next couple of days for sure. And some of these areas, visual masterpieces. Until the Iron and Ivory Crown DLCs, Iron Keep was my personal favorite aesthetic-wise. And Silvermont, if you're listening, I proudly killed myself to get your damn shield. Phoenix Parma represent. Alright, sorry this was kinda random and rambly, but I just wanted to share my recent change of heart with anyone who would listen. And if you made it this far in the video, you're the real MVP. Till you see me again, live well friends, and may the flames guide thee.